Hey there, everyone. Before we get started on this podcast, it's time for a big congratulations on behalf of the entire admissions staff to the class of 2025 first year admitted students. Yay! Now that you're officially in, it's time to dive into all that USC and the Viterbi School of Engineering have to offer. Starting March 31st and continuing throughout April, we're hosting 6 exclusive on-campus events. So choose a weekend or weekday that works for you. And if you're not able to visit campus, that's no problem. Our admission team is hitting the road with events in over 15 locations, both domestic and international, to connect with you where you are. For all the details and registration links, visit viterbi.link/admit events. That's viterbi.link, LANK/admit events, ADMITEVENTS. Don't miss out.
This is Viterbi Voices.
Coming to you from the University of Southern California, Viterbi School of Engineering.
We're here to give you the inside scoop on research, classes, student life, and so much more.
All of these shared by students, faculty, alumni, and other members of the USC community.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Viterbi Voices. As usual, I guess it hasn't been too usual. I guess it's been a while, but as usual, normally across all of them, I'm one of your hosts. My name is Paul Ledesma, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the USC Viterbi School of Engineering.
Hi, everyone. My name is Safia Patel. I'm your other co-host. I'm a senior studying computer science and doing my master's in engineering management. And Paul, I was going to say you haven't been with us for the last 3 episodes.
I know, it's been 3, right? I was just thinking about that. It's actually been 3 episodes I haven't been around.
It's almost a month of episodes.
I know.
Crazy.
It's been a really, really long time. And I feel weird about that because I don't think I've missed that many episodes ever before. I'm sorry.
Okay, we made do.
Yeah, no,
I'm sure the audience missed you, though.
I don't think so. They're probably like, thank God, get them out of here. And speaking of ways to get me out of here, we have other people here. We have another student here that I think is new to our podcast. You want to introduce yourself, special student co-host?
Yeah, my name is Satwika. I'm a sophomore in computer engineering and computer science, and I'm originally from Rutherford, New Jersey.
Okay, Satwika, thanks for being here. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit more about yourself, in addition to your studying computer science, right? What else do you do on campus? How do you spend your time?
Yeah, I'm a little bit more artistic. I'm into singing and dance, and I pursued that a lot my first semester here, but now it's a little bit more on the side. So my friend and I do like choirs around LA, and we also do like different dance classes. I'm also involved in USC Single Student Org, which is a religious and cultural community on campus. And I'm a grader for one of my CS courses as well, and I do research on campus.
Very cool. Tell us more about your research. What is that?
Yeah, so I work with Integrated Media Systems Center, which we work with LA traffic data. And the work I do is actually hopefully going to be used for California's, or I think LA's Department of Transportation to kind of see like different trips and visits that people are doing around LA. So I work with Professor John Crum and we meet every week. And I work on the project.
That's great.
Really cool.
And just for context, the Integrated Media Systems Center does a lot of different projects. That's just one of them, right? That's not what the whole research center does, because IMSC does a lot of really detailed, broad areas related to integrated media, but that's just one of the specific projects, right?
Right, correct.
Great, cool. And then music and dance. This is something that a lot of our students ask about, doing other things outside of engineering. Were those passions or involvements that you had coming out of high school?
Yeah, so in high school, I sang with choir and I was part of chamber choir, which a lot of students might be familiar with, which is kind of like a selected group for choirs within high schools. And then I also did dance, like acrobatics, and then kind of casually in my high school as well, culturally. And so I knew that coming into USC, like they always talk about engineering plus and things like that. And I knew that even if I didn't do dance in my coursework, I wanted to do it through like student orgs or even like at the gym here. They have this like NFL cheerleader who's 60 who like does these dance classes. So all of these have been cool ways to get involved.
A 60-year-old NFL cheerleader? Is that what you just said? Or you mean she used to be an
she's
NFL
no
cheerleader,
longer.
or she's currently a 60-year-old?
Yeah, well, she used to be a cheerleader, but now she's a teacher.
Got it. That's really cool. Awesome. There's lots to catch up on, and Safi, I haven't seen you in a long time. But before we do any of that, I'm sure we can do that on the back end. Why don't we just jump straight into this episode? Satwika, you bring us an episode all to yourself. So what's this all about? What do we got going here?
Yeah, so this episode's actually with my old TA for a CS 270 class, which any current USC students might know that it's like notably known as one of like the harder USC algorithms classes. And this TA had, I think, like a great perspective on the class, but also on life and his broader impact of like why CS, like what are the ethics surrounding CS? Should you do software engineering or what should you pursue? How do you find your niche? All these things. And he started talking about those things within our class, actually. And it was something I talked with him outside of class as well. And I felt like a lot of current students and prospective students would get more insight on CS, why CS, do I even do CS from Nathan.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get out of the way. Hand it right over to you to talk about this amazing episode, and we'll be back on the backside to talk a little bit more about everything else that's going on right now on campus. All right.
I know Nathan because we were in discussion together. He was my TA for CS 270, but I had actually met him briefly before that because I went to Break On Two's workshops. It's also dancing workshops. But yeah, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm Nathan Justin. I'm a fifth year computer science PhD student. I research in the Center for AI and Society here on USC campus, and my advisor is Phoebe Villanos. In terms of my research and what I do in my PhD, I do research on optimization methods for responsible machine learning. What does responsible machine learning mean? So creating machine learning methods that are interpretable, which means transparent and trustworthy, and also dealing with issues that may affect the accuracy or fairness of such models. Um, and then of course applying them to domains, especially within the social sciences.
Cool. And what are your like campus involvements, things you do on the side?
Yeah,
Personality?
I think the biggest thing I do, as Satwika mentioned, was that I'm a Latin dancer as well. So I like to I'm part of USC Break On Two Latin Fusion dance team. And I've been part of their team since I started my PhD here. And yeah, I've been a dancer for 9 years, almost 10 years now. Choreographing, performing, competing as well. And I'm the current competition team captain here at USC as well.
Cool. How'd you get into like Latin dancing? Was that part of your like competition team background or?
No, actually started dancing in college. I had never did any dance before college. I was a cross country and track runner back in the day. But life events just told me to quit running. And I wanted to find something new. And so at my undergrad, which was at Harvey Mudd College, they have the all the requirement colleges combined have a ballroom dance team, which is the third largest in the country. And I was like, well, everyone's joining, let me join. And I kind of just like went from there, and I started getting really, especially into Latin dance, and now here I am, still doing it to this day.
Wow, super cool. And I guess like about your PhD program. So I know that you're a PhD candidate now, but if we rewind a little, like how did you get into CS in the first place?
Yeah, yeah. So I think the story kind of starts kind of like many people. So I was in high school. I was a big math nerd. I think ask anybody from my high school, they would totally see me as Nathan as a math guy. You know, like he's the one that like loves calculus. He takes his calculator with him everywhere. Like in this plus punching in numbers or whatever. So when I came into Harvey Mudd. Um, I I wasn't really sure what career opportunities there were to do with math, and so I was like, well, what I'm hearing all this buzz about computer science, and it can give you a career. So ended up being a dual major in math and computer science at Harvey Mudd, my undergrad. And that's how I first got into it. I guess we get to more to later of why now I've developed an actual passion for computer science. But that's my initial how I actually got into computer science.
Cool. And did you Did you kind of feel like CS was like that application layer from math, or like how did you feel about that?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I think there was a fear of me learning, taking a major that was purely theoretical, and not really learning how to apply my knowledge in the real world. And that's where the CS layer came in.
Mhm.
And I slowly discovered that well, a math major does teach you practical things, but two, also that math and computer science can have this beautiful blend that and that like preparation helped me a lot within my career and in my PhD currently. Be able to do a little bit of both.
And did you go into undergrad knowing how to like code or do CS or any of that, or was that a first time experience?
So I took AP Computer Science in high school. But that's it. I didn't do anything else beyond that. I didn't take any internships. I didn't like do any research. I didn't do any projects outside of that class. So I really kind of came in pretty blind to what CS really was. My only frame of reference was, oh, we code things in I think they might still do Java and AP computer science. I don't know.
They do.
But it was just coding in Java and then like, that's it.
Right.
You take the AP test and you're good.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the more I dove into CS, the more I realized how much more it is than just coding.
Yeah, yeah. And I was gonna get into that a little bit later, how like there's like a intersection between maybe CS and coding, but it's not all that there is. But like sticking to your undergrad experience, how was that? Like, did you like your coursework? Did you find it difficult? Things like that.
Yeah, so one interesting thing about Harvey Mudd is that it's a STEM liberal arts college. So it's very different from, for example, the curriculum here at USC. And so my coursework really was pretty much like one third my major, which was divided into two, and then like one third humanities, social sciences, and arts, and I did a focus on American studies. And then one third core coursework, which was like basically a breadth of knowledge in all the STEM fields. So it was a
Mhm.
very interesting um, education experience for sure. I got a lot of breadth, not necessarily depth, which is a, both a good thing and a bad thing. There's definitely pros and cons to it. I think for me, eventually, I look back at it and saw it as a good thing that I took so many courses in different fields that are outside of my major,
Mhm.
especially within like the social science and humanities, because a lot of that knowledge I learned, I'm incorporating currently into my PhD work.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's true a little bit with maybe USC's GEs, but I think that's
Hmm.
kind of what you make of it because it's easy to think like that these are separate ideas, I guess, like, oh, like my STEM classes and then my humanities. But when you see them kind of blend together and think about like, oh, philosophy in tech or like ethics in tech and all of that, like to have that intersection is kind of hard, I think, to do on your own if you don't have those classes supporting it.
Exactly, exactly. And so, as much as we complain about GEs and whatnot, right? I think if you t tailor your curriculum in a way, in like a certain way, you can really get a lot out of them with whatever career you go to, right? So, and I'm a strong believer in that. I do think just having a strict, for example, computer science education without anything outside of it, can lead to basically it doesn't make you a well-rounded person, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you're going to industry, academia, or whatever you want to do in life, you you really want to be well-rounded because then that gives you a diverse perspective on the issues and problems that you'll face within your job.
Right. And I think especially as an engineer, it's easy to kind of think, oh, like this is my like local, what I'm doing in this company, but like I'm not really looking at how this impacts the world. But once you start to think about that, I think it's a little bit of like an existential crisis.
Yeah, and even beyond, like even just like even more simply, right? Like a lot of the things that you will develop as a software engineer, as a data scientist, as whatever you do with your CS degree or engineering degree, it's going to be public facing, right? And if you're facing the public, like that has an impact on society in some way, right?
Mhm.
Like whether you know it or not.
Mhm.
And having this understanding of social sciences and humanities, it's that it gives you that perspective, right? That you won't get strictly just from a strictly STEM education.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess pivoting a little bit back to your undergrad experience, how were if you had any internships or any research or things like that, how were those experiences like real world application based?
Yeah, yeah. So I guess I'll start with research experiences. So I had several research experiences in undergrad. They were kind of all over the place because I think I was still trying to find my footing in some sense. So every summer I would switch between research and internships and like, try to figure out what I wanted to do, which could be very relatable for a lot of people in CS. But yeah, I did research a bit of research in math and computer science education actually within K through 12.
Mhm.
I researched how computer science could be incorporated into the Math Common Core curriculum.
Mhm.
So that was a quite interesting endeavor. I also did some more theoretical work on machine learning, and that's how I first got into machine learning. And yeah, and also did I guess my senior capstone was kind of researchy slash internshipy. I was working with a company called New Relic
Mhm.
to develop like anomaly detection methods for like their the data they collect, which is like host data, since they're like a data tracking company for websites. Um, but yeah, and then in terms of my internships, I did an internship with it used to be a startup, but is now I think incorporated into GoDaddy. They're called Over. And they had a iPhone app, and I worked on the iPhone development team. And then I also worked with HomeAway, which is now Verbo. And I also did that as well as for my internships. But yeah, so I kind of like toss between a lot of theoretical things like the education research and the theoretical machine learning research, and then like also the industry, things like working with Over and HomeAway, which is now Verbo.
Yeah, I remember us talking about Verbo when we
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I guess like the kind of two parallels with like the research and machine learning and then working on these internships, like did you see yourself originally going down the maybe software engineering track that a lot of CS folks find themselves on, or like entering industry originally? Like was that something you were pretty set on?
Hey everyone, it's Brooke here. This message is for all our awesome high school juniors or even younger students out there that are curious about what the Viterbi School of Engineering is all about. We've got a great opportunity for you. Our on-campus Visit Viterbi experience sessions are the best way to get to know more about our programs. It's a 90-minute session focused on first-year applicants. It includes an overview of our academic programs and admission process led by one of our very own USC Viterbi admission counselors. To get more information and to register, visit our webpage, viterbi.link/events, viterbi.link/events, EVENTS. We can't wait to meet you.
Yeah, I wasn't selling anything to be honest when I was an undergrad, and I think we'll probably talk about this. Maybe we can talk about this more later. But I I really don't believe in like setting your soul on like one certain thing, especially when you're young. Like even like me in my late 20s, I'm still like not super set on everything, and I think that's totally fine. Like I'm a very like keep your options open kind of person. So that was me. I was one side of me was like, let's go into like, let's be a software engineer, let's do all these internships, like
Yeah,
I feel like the common CS route people go.
yeah.
And like, I I think it's still somewhat true to say like people are like, oh yeah, like, it's a very like you can get a lot of money coming out of college, like you can have a set life, you can like
Yeah.
it'll be great,
Right, big
like
tech.
yeah, and like tech culture is like fantastic, and there's like all these like things people say, right?
Yeah.
And then like but I had a little heart in me, a little like piece of me that was like, okay, like me, like academia is my back of my
Yeah.
mind because I really like, I think a lot of the professors, and I think this is true for many people that go get a PhD, they've met professors in undergrad or like, or even like grad students in like, within their undergrad that really gave them a new perspective on what it's like to be, a PhD
Hmm.
student, be an academic, go to grad school, things like that. And that was true for me at Harvey Mudd, meeting a lot of my professors really passionate about their research and teaching. And that made me, you know, um, really think about a PhD always in the back of my mind. So um, yeah. So long story short, I didn't really make a choice until I actually got into being a software engineer.
Right, right. And I feel like maybe you were a little bit of that for me, and obviously I clearly haven't decided yet, but I think like the idea of a PhD is definitely really intimidating, like having to go to school for that many more years and pursue research and like really have the drive to make it happen. But I feel like when you meet a few people who are really interested in it, then it makes you think like, oh, maybe I could be too, and maybe it's something that I could actually achieve. Also, because I think that software engineering and like the industry path is not necessarily for everyone. And I feel like you do find some people that are super passionate about it, but I think the masses aren't like there's a lot of people that are in the field and it's saturated with people that are not super interested in it, which is a little unmotivating, I guess.
Yeah, and you're hitting on a really good point here. It's like which is motivation, right? Like I think it's very hard to do a PhD without true motivation. Um, if you're a PhD is not like, oh, I take a bunch of classes and then I get this degree, kind of like what you did, what you do in undergrad
Mhm.
and like a lot of master's programs as well. Like it's a very self-driven degree program. Like you come in, you have a research project, maybe you take some classes to tailor to essentially what your research is. No one tells you what to take. No one tells you how to progress in research, really. You get, of course, your advisor to help you out along the way, but your day-to-day schedule is not set by anybody but yourself. Your deadlines are not set by anybody but yourself. It's a
Mhm.
very, and if you don't have that motivation to do a PhD, it's hard to, maybe you could still graduate with a PhD, but will you actually enjoy the experience? Will you, be able to push yourself, to do well in your PhD, not just like survive in your PhD, but thrive in your PhD, right? And that's something that, it's uphill, it's a roller coaster battle, right? Like as a PhD student, like sometimes like you have days where you're like, or even weeks, months, where you're like, I'm just not motivated, and that's totally normal, right? But you still have to start with some motivation, right, to get
Right.
into those things. And but this is like I'm saying this from a PhD perspective, but this is true for, if you go to industry as well, right? Like if you don't have necessarily motivation to do your work, no matter how like in from what I've seen from my friends that now that I'm 5, 6 years out of college, right? It's like where um you can have all this money, but if there's no motivation behind it, it's kind of worthless, so maybe this is getting more philosophical, but this is my take on things. This is my take on
Yeah.
things. That's just, yeah.
No, and I think that also obviously like people need to make ends meet and at the end of the day, but I think a lot of
Yes.
students here, especially studying engineering, have a little bit of the liberty to make the choice on what they want to do. And in which case, like when the motivation is solely money, it's a little difficult to like make yourself get up in the morning to do something that you're not passionate about for like 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, how many years of your life, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I exactly. And like, it's very, you know, maybe this is like again, it's coming from my perspective. Like, I grew up with like Asian immigrant parents, right? Like immigrated to the US for economic opportunity. This may
Yeah,
be true for, several other people. And there's kind of this, whether your parents explicitly say it or not, there's this kind of mindset as a child of an Asian immigrant parent of like you need to make sure you earn money, right? And
right,
that's
get
their goal.
settled. Yeah.
And because like they didn't like they sacrificed a lot for you to be here, right? And
Yes.
so it was which is, a fair mindset, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But if that's the only motivation you have, I think that's where you kind of can go wrong, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, you do have to,
Yeah.
in cliche terms, live your best life. Like, right? Live your best life. Like, don't, money is not living your best life necessarily,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So then,
yeah.
I guess when did you, I know that we talked about this a little bit before, but when did you decide to make the leap to like leave industry and think, oh, like this is my path. I'm gonna go pursue a PhD.
Yeah. I think, so I think I had and I'm thankful for my experience within my company, my like right after I graduated. So I worked with Aspiration. They were they're, I think they are not were are a fintech company that is motivated by like especially environmental good and social good,
Hmm.
and so trying to make fintech into something that's good for society.
Hmm.
And so I joined Aspiration in June of 2019, and I started applying for PhDs in September of 2019. um, and that's not the and it's more so I realized several things for myself personally. One, I'm the type of person to really care about what work I do and be able to control that in some way, right? And I think it's somewhat difficult for me to do that in industry. I have, of course, some say in what I build in the company, right? Like it was a company that wanted to be socially good and environmentally friendly. So they were willing to hear what I had to say about those kind of issues. But having that control over the outputs and like having, having some ownership in what I put out there was something really I found out ended up being really important to me as a value of mine. And so industry didn't really align with that. So that was
Hmm.
one. Two, I realized coding every day wasn't right for me. I am it's very weird to say, but I'm a PhD in computer science that doesn't like to code 24/7. Like,
Hmm.
it's, and that's and so I realized that about myself as well. It's just not it wasn't my passion. And I always kind of went back to kind of like my high school days, where I was like, I'm a mathematician.
Hmm.
Like first and foremost, I love math.
Yeah.
To this day, I still love math. If anything, I'm more of a math person than I'm a CS person. um, since yeah, the coding aspect, yeah, it's for me, it ended up being kind of like, oh, like, it's not the most exciting thing in the world for me.
Hmm.
And that's kind of where I started making that leap.
Hmm.
I applied to um, a bunch of PhD programs, and I pretty much applied to a bunch of top colleges, including USC, obviously. And then kind of crossed my fingers from there. And if I didn't make it into any of them, I just told myself, well, it's not like I'm that miserable in my job,
Hmm.
like I knew it wasn't right for me in the long term, but
Hmm.
like I'm,
Yeah.
like I could still stick with my job and maybe apply a future year or something like that. And I just want to see what happens. And lo and behold, gone to USC, so here I am. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I feel like sometimes maybe taking that leap of faith is the hardest because even if like it didn't work out with the PhD programs at the end of the day, it was still like a decision or a step in the path that you wanted to go down potentially, or like maybe being like, oh, like this path isn't for me, so let me see what else there is.
Yeah, I think I feel I don't think like having this mindset of you can't pivot at all ever in anything, like that's not the right mindset. Like you can pivot. Like the answer is like in even in a PhD, like I had friends that, you know, took did their PhD for like 2 or 3 years and decided it wasn't right for them. And then they got their master's and left for
Mhm.
industry or another field, completely another field, right? Like so there's nothing wrong with, in my opinion, there's still nothing wrong with pivoting. Truly, I again, like my philosophy and like especially like when you're still so young, like is don't be afraid to, pivot and change, because if you're not like why be stuck in something
Yeah.
that you don't enjoy?
Right.
It doesn't like to me like the it if you have the opportunity to take a chance on something new,
Hmm.
while you're young, don't have not settled down really, trying to
Yeah.
figure things out in life, like
Yeah.
go for it, right?
And I feel like as college students, we sometimes get, or I don't know if this is a universal experience, but get stuck in the route of like, oh, like, gotta finish this class, gotta finish this semester, the degree, like, get the internship, get the job. But then we don't really think about like what's after. Like, if I get the job, then what do I do with my life? But yeah, and so I feel like in that sense, sometimes it doesn't feel like we're thinking as if we're that young, but I feel like truly this might be the time to like explore, like take the GEs, the music classes, the different things. Because I feel like engineers, like you said this before, but engineers that are like well-rounded are truly the best engineers to be around.
Hmm. Yeah, and I guess going back to your point of like it's very easy to kind of get like one tracked, I guess, in some sense, like into like laser focus on, for example, the grade during the end of the
Yeah.
semester, right? There are no grades when you once you leave college, right? So you need to prepare yourself for that, right? Like you'll be surprised as to how much like when I was like that singular, literally the singular year I was in industry, like how much that like I realized the like motivate again, going back to the idea of motivation, right, for yourself in your work, like how important that is because there's no grade to give you motivation anymore, right?
Yeah.
There's no like like even most of us will be salaried workers, where you get a salary, like, as long as you do like decent performance, right? Like
Yeah.
going above and beyond is not going to get you paid extra.
Right, right.
So it's maybe it'll get you the promotion down the line, but that's
Yeah.
like iffy far in advance, right? So
Yeah.
it's like it's very it's truly it's a very different world once you leave college and it's very easy to like not be prepared for that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what people call, like I've, for lack of a better word, I have a lot of friends that are in like quarter life crises or like
Yeah.
or past the quarter life crisis, like, and a lot of that, especially for college graduates, is not having a sense of direction, right? Because
Yeah.
all your life you're given this sense of direction through school.
Hmm.
But then once you leave school, then what? There's no one going down on you saying like, oh, you get this grade. Oh, you need to do this for your
Yeah.
career. There's nobody telling you that. And that's
Right.
when you get like frazzled on what you should do.
Mm.
And that's why I always say don't be afraid to switch. Don't be afraid to explore. Don't be afraid to do any of that because that's how you kind of find your footing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
I think this is
that's
especially true for maybe CS majors because a lot of people, like, because has recently, I guess, become such a booming field. Like, when
Mhm.
people are unsure about their major, maybe high school students, a lot of people think, oh, like, CS is this, like, cool field, like, everyone's in it, like, maybe I should get into it too. But, and then it's easy to kind of like be in the coursework and this course and that course rather than being like, oh, like, what do I actually want to do with this?
Yeah. And like, going back to when our time at 270 together, like
Yeah.
talking to many like 270 students, like they kind of started feeling kind of similar way. Like
Yeah.
they're thinking software engineering doesn't seem right for me, right?
Yeah.
And it almost feels like that's the only thing you can do with CS when the reality
Hmm.
is that's far from the truth, that's far from the truth. And but like your, maybe societal expectations or like the culture of CS and like, in universities, it almost feels like software engineering is the only option
Yeah.
sometimes. Even though it's not. Like I have friends that are, I had a friend that went to get her PhD in sociology
Hmm.
and uses her CS and coding skills in order to be able to analyze data sets,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
Same thing with like, I have friends that are in project management.
Hmm.
I think I've heard of somebody doing patent writing. Like it's you can do so much, right? It's and be like me, go get a PhD in something that you're interested in, right? Like and blend, some fields together to like with CS to do something different and interesting. There's a lot you can do with CS because it's such a because the ability to code, the ability to have an understanding of how to do that and how to build things, using like is an essential tool in pretty much every single field currently, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and people don't realize how flexible like their Viterbi major may be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that like 270 as a class maybe caused a lot of people to start thinking that way because it's a CS class, but you never touch a computer unless it's like opening Brightspace. And so I feel like a lot of people, maybe it was also like having a nice professor and like a really knowledgeable TA, but I feel like a lot of us enjoyed that like methodical, like let's come up with an algorithm, but it wasn't necessarily something we did in our coding classes. Like, yeah, maybe we would implement some simple algorithms, but like that level of higher order thinking wasn't something we had seen before in CS.
Mhm.
And so it was cool to see that, but then also a little intimidating because it was like, where do I even apply this if I'm interested in this? But I
Yeah.
guess that's a path too.
Well, I guess like the soft skill that I hope people learn from like a class like 270, like a classic algorithms is just knowing how to approach problems in the first place, right?
Mhm.
Like I think it's very rare to find a class where they just teach you literally like, oh, this is how you solve problems in general. right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like this is how you approach things. Like, and like being able to kind of stand back from like the computer, right?
Yeah.
And really think about problems in a fundamental way is
Yeah.
a soft skill that develops over time, right? And that's what makes, a class like 270, from what I heard, infamously difficult. It's because you're kind of taken away from like the oh, there's an exact correct way to do this. There's an exact
Yeah.
correct way to like, like style to like write this or whatever, right? It's a very like, okay, here's a random problem. Tell me how to solve it in a efficient way, whatever efficient
Yeah.
means, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or even at the very last bit of the class, it's like, is this problem even computationally tractable, right? Like it's and then like then all logic gets thrown out the window. So,
Yeah.
but be able to grapple with those things, like whether you memorize exactly what P and NP are,
Yeah.
um, be able to grapple with those like with these concepts like gives you those soft skills that you need in like the real world, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I really like 270.
And I feel like the problems like didn't necessarily seem like CS problems. It'd be like Nathan's designing a costume, or like their doctors are like trying to schedule their days off. And it would be like, oh, here are the real world applications in ways I never thought of before. It's not like building a website, you know?
Exactly, exactly. And that will, and that's why I say like 270 is probably the most important class in your CS major. And whether you know it's really difficult, it is like probably the most important class. Because it teaches you things outside of like just your everyday coding and whatever you do with CS, right? It really teaches you that you need to think about problems like, basically think before you code. It basically teaches you how to do that, right? Like it's kind of like how you think before you speak. You got to think before you code, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Professor Cote also mentioned that like he touched on like, oh, if you code an algorithm but you like initialize this way, then you're like biasing these populations. And I was like, I had never thought about that. So that was really cool.
Exactly. And that's why algorithms is like in the CS PhD program here at USC, it's the only required class,
Yeah,
algorithms.
I've heard.
Everything else is up to you,
Yeah.
but everyone has to take algorithms.
Yeah.
Why? Because of these exact soft skills, right? That you have to learn as a CS person or anybody really that tackles problems, in industry or research.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I guess some of my last things I was going to ask was, and I know that this is basically what we talked about the entire time, but to sum it up a little bit, I think a lot of students come in with like this passion for like doing what they love, but also like inspiring change in the world, especially as like eager high school students. But maybe over the course of their degree program, they decide to settle a little bit. So, what's your take on kind of like maintaining those two things?
Like maintaining like
Your
so
loves, and then also like this want to maybe inspire change or do something good for the world.
yeah, that's a good question. So what I found for a lot of CS PhD students is that they combined like their passion for computer science with something they're interested in or a personal experience, right? And I think, that's why I have, I know people that combined things like communications with CS, right? People that
Mhm,
combine maybe like their interest in like health related applications with computer science because they experience something in life or they,
mhm,
or they're very passionate about maybe health equity or something like that, right?
mhm.
Um, and I can't speak for everybody and how they exactly do that, but I think what's really important is knowing what you're passionate about and don't be afraid to blend that with your career path, right? And I've kind of always been, especially when in college, I started learning more and more about because I mentioned before I was a American Studies concentration in my humanities social sciences, and a lot of things I focused on were about like especially cultural histories and diasporic cultural histories in the United States context. So like things looked at issues related to like racial issues throughout in the United States, like in the modern era. Looked at LGBT issues in the modern era, gender issues, etc. Right? So those and learning about those things really kind of started gearing me towards okay, how do I look at the technology I create in a different way that um, and create technology in a way that impacts the world positively, right? It's very easy as a person in AI, right?
Yeah.
To hear all this news about how horrible AI is for the world, right? We, you know, we hear about how AI, like, you know, racially profiles people. We hear about how AI maybe selects like men in jobs more than women. We see how, like, I mean, the list goes on, right? Like the list goes on and on and on. And as a person in like that has studied like these kind of like issues as within my undergraduate education, as well as a person that has this STEM background, I have grown really attached to creating AI for good, right? And creating AI in a way that I know is like, you know, going to benefit society more so than harm society.
Yeah.
And I want to be an advocate for that change. And that's how I kind of really got passionate about my field. And so that's my story on behind all that. But for the, you know, for anyone that wants to, you know, blend this like their passions, whether, you know, and their passion for like being socially good, right? Just this, you simply don't lose it, right? Don't lose that passion in your work, right? Be that person that stands up for um you know, creating like technology that's beneficial to society within your companies, within your research, within whatever you do, right? When you graduate. Um and advocate for that. Advocate for yourself, advocate for other people. I think it's very easy to, you know, it's easy to be a follower, right? And
Yeah.
just kind of like follow whatever, you know, whatever happens around you in your company. But,
Yeah.
you know, I hope that, you know, an education from USC or wherever you go to, right, will teach you to be a leader, right? And what a leader means is really standing up for your passions, standing up for your interests and your values within your work. And that's something that, you know, that's my biggest advice to a lot of people. Don't lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that comes maybe from just thinking critically and like not having blinders on, like, oh, what am I actually doing right now? What are the impacts of this? And like, does that fit with who I want to be?
Exactly, exactly. And, you know, as much as, you know, a bunch of people call STEM majors like the robots, you know, like there's a running joke in my dance team that like, you know, I'm just some like AI robot. It's like, you know, but like as much as we, you know, like are technology people, right? We are also technology people for society.
Right.
So you got to always keep that in mind, right?
Yeah. Okay, so what's next for you? I know this is your like last semester, so
Well, it's actually not my last semester. This
oh,
is
never mind.
no, yeah, next year will be my last year, which also means I will be on the academic job market. So I want to stay in academia after I have my PhD. So I'm looking for like yeah, so hopefully one day I'll be on some tenure track position. I'm looking for postdocs right now. Well, I guess not now, but maybe like starting this summer. Right now, like research is a little hectic right now, but but yeah, I'm looking for academic positions because I want to stay in academia and kind of like what we talked about before. I want to stick with, you know, being able to define the problems I'm interested in that I think are, you know, beneficial to society at large and that match with my values. And yeah, that's my goal to continue to do that beyond my PhD.
Yeah, so maybe whoever's listening will have you as their future professor or as their research mentor.
Yeah, I mean, hit me up. You know, I'm gonna be on a job market in a few months. So yeah, I would love to yeah, find a new home in my career somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was cool talking to you and like hearing about your story. I will definitely be in touch, but
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. And like this is for any past 270 students listening, you're always more than welcome to reach out. Like truly like having you as a student as well as many others like made my that was my last semester for context, my first semester TAing and truly made it something so special. And it's a experience I won't forget for sure. So yeah, thank you to all of those past students.
yeah. Oh, well, it's good talking to you about this.
And we're back. Thank you so much for bringing us that lovely episode. I feel like this episode is something I should have heard before I came to USC myself, just because I didn't realize what computer science was all about either. And even when prospective students come up to me to this day and ask about what I want to do after college, I'm like, maybe I'll do software, maybe I'll do XYZ. We'll see what it ends up being. So I think they'll get good insight based on this episode.
Well, speaking of the opportunities after school, Safia, where are you in this decision process? We're getting closer and closer to the end.
My favorite question.
I know.
I'm actually staying next semester at USC to finish my master's,
Because you
and
got time.
then
You got
I
time.
have a little bit more time. I have an offer for a company that I previously worked at, but I think I want to go. I want to re-recruit in the fall to potentially switch career paths a little bit, just because
Oh,
software is not necessarily my forte. We might lean into more product management and follow like the more master's route. So we'll see what my future entails. I'll keep the podcast episode or the podcast updated in the
right,
next season, maybe.
right. Cool. So, Thika, do you know what you're doing this coming summer?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in DC. It's not confirmed yet, but I'm hoping to do work and actually kind of related to the podcast episode too. It's not entirely software, and so I'm excited to see what else there is that CSS software.
Very cool.
Okay, very cool. How's everything else been going with you guys as far as campus goes and what campus life is like? We got what, one more week of classes
I
after
know
this
it's
week?
so scary. Wait, Paul, do you want to tell the audience where you've been for the last 3 weeks? Because I
No,
keep hinting at it. I'm like,
no.
yeah, he's in a different state or country this week. We don't know.
Well, I mean, it's been okay, so it's been 3 weeks. Last week, so we go, well, we'll start in the beginning. The first one I was gone, let's see, just because of our recording time periods. I was in Chicago, or I was on
Mhm.
my way to Chicago, and we did an admitted student event in Chicago. And then the week after that, I was in Texas for that week doing admitted student events, meeting with students in Dallas and in Houston. And then I was home for like a hot minute. And then, but there was some confliction, some work meetings and stuff like that that I had to do that day. So we couldn't record on that particular
Yeah.
day, even though I was literally in LA on that day. And then, we did our big open house on campus.
Yep.
And then the next day, I got on a plane to India. And so I was in Delhi and I was in Mumbai. And then I got back Monday night. And so what's today? Wednesday. So yesterday we were on campus to do the other admitted student
Explore.
event. Yeah, whatever. I don't know what we're doing now.
Is there any more
And
travel or are you done after that?
no, that's it. I'm done.
Okay,
That's it. It was
nice.
just a very fast 3 weeks of travel and kind of ping-ponging around the world, literally. Yeah, so now we're done. But right now, like the hard part is I don't know what day it is and I don't know what time it is. And right before this meeting, I literally thought it was like 11:30 in the morning. I thought I still had like most of the day to go, and I'm realizing like, no, we're
Workday's
kind of
almost
wrapping it up. Yeah.
over.
Because that's the other thing that happened is like, especially over the last couple days, because it was like 30 hours to get here from Mumbai. And it took because of the layover and a bunch of other things that were complicated, but um, it's two flights. They're roughly 10 to 11 hours each. And then I had a long layover. But basically, one of the hard parts was in that day of Monday, like for some reason, usually it's Mondays, my inbox just got slammed. And so then being basically out of the office at our event all day yesterday, I spent most of today just like trying to
Catching
catch
up.
up on emails
Yeah.
that have been going on. And of course everything is urgent and everything needs lots of help, but it's just me, and I'm tired and I don't really know what's happening, but we're good. We're fine. Yeah, I got through yesterday
Okay,
and then
that's
came
good to
home and
hear.
crashed. Yeah, as much as possible.
Once May 1st hits, I hope that things get easier when students have to
Things are slowing down.
decide
Yeah,
once they come here or
things are
not.
slowing down. Yeah, once we get through this week, everybody's getting to that point of making that decision, and you got a lot of one-off questions here or there, and we're dealing with them case by case. And of course, I'm not the only one. We got all of us that are here, but we
I know
gotta.
that when I was an admitted student, I slammed Paul with a few emails, like
Yeah,
3 or 4 maybe.
yeah. It happens. It happens. It's okay. It's what we're here to do. It's just we got to try to get through them as best as possible. Some of them, I was telling one person today in an email, I'm like, you emailed because they don't understand that I'm looking at both our general email account
Oh,
and my email account.
yeah.
And when they
Oh.
emailed both of me with the same question, and I was like, I told one kid today, dude, we answered you this exact question yesterday. Don't email me the same question again, thinking you're going to get a different answer.
Oh no.
Not helpful to me. It's like the nice way I say it over email is, please help us not to duplicate efforts. In other words, don't waste our time right now. This is
Very PC answer.
yeah, because I was looking at this going, God, this name looks familiar. Didn't we already answer this question? And I looked, I'm like, you
We
back to back
did.
emailed this question. So yeah, it's always a little bit fun.
If it makes you feel any better, I haven't been traveling and I still don't know what day it is. I did not realize it was a Wednesday today at all. I
It's
thought
weird
it
we're
was,
recording on a Wednesday. We never record on Wednesdays.
yeah, we never do. I don't know why. My schedule's been a little all over the place, so I didn't realize it was a Wednesday either. Because
I'm glad you did. It's better today than it's going to be the next couple days. So this
Yeah.
is good.
And it's like later in the day than we usually do too. So I feel like my schedule's just like thrown off. I'm used to like talking to you at like 11 a.m.
That's okay. No, it's good. It's good. It's great. It's good stuff. I mean, I was literally, this actually helped because all I was doing was going through a bunch of expense reports for India and doing a lot of conversion from INR to USD. So we're doing a lot of math right now, which is not a lot of fun. So it all works out.
Salisbury, what do you have coming up for the last week of school? Anything fun planned before we all head out to summer break?
I think that I'm trying to get through the last week of classes, but this is my last semester living on campus.
Oh,
So my roommates and I are really trying to take advantage of like living right here. We're doing like sleepovers. All of us are getting
oh,
together because we live like right next to each other and we're not really going to have that experience again.
wait,
So
that's so
yeah, I'm
fun.
having a good time.
Where are you going to live next year?
I'm living maybe like 2 blocks off of campus. I really prioritized being next to the village because I love Trader Joe's.
Right. So here's an interesting point. I always want to clarify. So without that context, it sounds
Yeah.
like you were leaving.
Oh, no, I'm
And
not leaving.
I know, and that's my point, is that I always want to tell you guys, whenever you say something like, oh my God, it's my last year living on campus, and oh my God, because I have to do this whole thing. And then I'm like, stop, 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 stop. Where are you moving to? You're like, oh, across the street. It's like,
Right.
you're not, like, that's the thing. It's like, I was talking to
That's
parents the other
true.
day, and it's like, so, oh my God, what do the students do when they have to leave to live off campus in their junior year? I'm like, first off, let's pause there. You don't have to. You have the option to do whatever you want to do. We guarantee the USC owned housing. Secondly, if you've been living in the village, technically you've been off campus this entire time. And third,
That's
when you
true.
live off campus, you're living a block over. Like this is
Yeah.
the same community. You will do the same things.
That's
It is,
probably true.
you're
But now
overblowing this.
I'm like a 1 minute walk from my friends versus like a five
Oh
minute
my
walk, you know?
God. Oh, geez.
Right.
We're adding 4 minutes. How are you going to deal?
I know. When I talk to the prospective students, or even admitted though, they're always shocked about thrift. When I say that we get free Lyft after
Yeah.
6 p.m.,
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, wait, like that's not that bad then. Like, it doesn't matter if you live off campus. Yeah, it is pretty nice.
But yeah, it is. That's another added benefit. But also, I want to talk about like how we define off campus, especially to prospective students, because prospective students, considering like us versus many other universities, off campus is like commuting. Like they are
Yeah.
driving
Right.
in to go to school. So like
No, my off
that,
campus is a 10-minute walk.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So and the community, it's all in the same community. We're all
Yeah.
it
here.
is.
Like I think I was talking to a parent that was like they're debating between us and UT Austin, and I was like, we can fit all of our on and off campus housing inside of UT Austin probably like 5 times. Like it's like it's a small space. We're all right
Yeah.
here. So and that people
It's true.
lose track of those kind of contextual definitions, if it makes any sense. So
True.
those are the things we want to deal with. All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much. It's good to see you, and thank you for bringing us this episode, Satwika. I really appreciate it. That is us. That is it for today. We'll be back next week as we start to wrap this up, Safia. Or I think we're coming towards the end of this season. It sounds like. How many more episodes do we
are.
have left?
Let me double check. I
If you
think
know.
this actually might be one of the last ones
Yep.
because tentatively on my schedule, at least it says this goes up on April 27th, and then next week is technically the last episode, but I think we could push that back. We'll see. That's
Okay.
kind of soon.
So we got one, maybe 2 more after
Yeah.
this. So we'll see what happens. Okay. That's it for us today. We'll be back next week with another new episode of Viterbi Voices. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.